Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is a podcast where a husband and wife team go over all of the world building, characters, and storytelling in video games. Because that's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yes, this is episode 47. Before we get into the meat of this episode, if you'd like to contact us, you can do that on Twitter at Lore Together, on Instagram at Lore Together, through email at loretogether@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support this podcast and our new goal of getting a Sony console,
Woo!
as well as another goal of getting console streaming capabilities,
Yeah!
you can do that over on patreon.com/loretogether. We can pay a per episode pledge and get early access to the episodes, mini episodes, Q&As, and other stuff that we're planning on doing.
Yes. We had a Q&A that we were going to do, and I think we forgot to schedule it, Mystic. So
We've had a very busy couple weekends, and every week is busy because of Buddy.
okay.
So
This weekend's not. We have no excuse.
Okay.
And one other thing I would like to add is I don't think we thank our current patrons enough. So not to name you all, but you know who you are. We really appreciate you, and we heart all of you. And also, I'm very proud that we're creators who we did not have to beg our family members to get patrons. We've got genuine.
Yeah, we absolutely do not
Patrons.
know anybody personally who's our patron, which
No,
is...
we haven't met you in the real world, which maybe someday we will, but it hasn't happened yet, and we appreciate you supporting us.
If we get big enough, we'll hit the convention circuit.
Do we need to get big to hit the convention circuit?
Well, okay. Big enough is like at least 10 people.
Okay. All right. Well,
We go to Gen Con anyway. So.
yeah. True. We do. We absolutely do.
Anyway, so it's still October. And before we get into the episode, we are discussing a horror game.
Yes.
It's more jump scary, less psychological. But there's still going to be elements here that some people may find disturbing. So just keep that in mind.
Take care of yourself, and if you can't do this episode, we'll see you next episode.
It's not. But anyway, so this is a Juggernaut series.
Oh.
You have probably played a game in this series.
Okay.
The first game came out in 96. The first game of the chronology came out in 2002. So we're doing another 2002 horror game today.
Is it Fatal Frame?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, stand corrected.
We are going to be dipping our toes into the juggernaut that is Resident Evil.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I guess we're doing it then.
So, developed by Capcom. Designer is Shinji Mikami, who is well known at this point. Generally a third-person survival horror franchise, but the more recent games have taken it more first-person.
Yeah, they've been trying to evolve. I think it's because the arc has been more of like trapped camera angle horror, kind of like what we saw in Eternal Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Then it evolved to kind of like action monster hunting.
Yeah.
And I think then the team that's working on it now wants to go back towards getting it creepy, but it's more of like a 2020s version of what is creepy.
Yeah, you
right
can't
now.
do the tank controls these days as much. They're
No.
very unintuitive.
Right. So the first person angle with a lot of like a cerebral kind of presence in there.
Games are known for their jump scares, creepy atmosphere, cheesy, campy dialogue, especially in the early days.
And I'm just going to also mention sometimes they're problematic advertising for one of their
Yes.
series entries, which we don't have to talk about that.
Oh, we're going to have
but-
problematic stuff in here. Don't worry about it.
Oh, yay. And hopefully
And-
we can handle it like adults.
And
everybody.
memorable yet convoluted plot lines, although that last can be said of many games we have covered.
Convoluted plot lines? Why, yeah, I think even Paper Mario kind of had some convolutedness in there, which is saying something.
So there's 10 games in total in the core series currently. There's a bunch of remakes. There's some offshoots. There's a lot of strange ports on things like the Zeebo. And so the Zeebo is a Brazilian game console.
I was going to say, you guys couldn't see the look I was giving Mystic, but I essentially extended my neck out as if it was going to get closer to his face, as if it was going to help it make more sense.
Yeah, so one of the YouTube channels we watch from time to time, not regularly, but from time to time, is Stop Skeletons from Fighting.
Yes.
And he just did a thing about Resident Evil 4 ports, and one of them was to the Zeebo.
I mean, that's just... That name sounds like it's doomed to fail
it lasted,
as a brand.
I think it lasted 2 years.
Ooh.
And there was also a very famous port on the Tiger Gamecom.
Okay, at least Tiger Gamecom, I know what it is, and I know that it existed, and that it had some sort of semblance of existence, you know.
Yeah. There's a bunch of live-action movies, 6 live-action films starring Mia Jovovich.
P.S. She's a fantastic action star, as much as those movies sometimes are just pure trash, and nothing wrong with enjoying pure trash. She is such a good lead action star that I can't be mad. I just can't be mad at it.
Yeah, and I literally just found out there's a reboot coming out in a month.
Oh, yeah.
The Alice one, the Mia Jovovich one is done.
Yes.
And now they're rebooting it, and it looks sufficiently cheesy and campy.
I'm here for some camp.
There's also a bunch of CGI movies and 2 television series. One is already out. It's like a 4-part CGI one, and there's one in production, and there was some controversy over one of the casting choices.
Oh no.
Well, we can get into why a tiny bit. Lance Reddickson, I think it's Reddickson, was cast as Albert Wesker.
Okay.
So Lance Reddickson you might know from The Wire or as Broyles from Fringe.
Yes.
Being cast as a guy who is a eugenicist and a kind of a supremacist is...
It sounds like they're trying to get away from that angle
but he's the bad guy.
Yeah, or maybe they're trying to do a twist to subvert it.
That's fine. Some people are like, they're not following the games. Again, it's an adaptation. We've covered this before.
Your canon is your own security blanket. Even I've had to admit that to myself. And we have don't we have a Patreon episode where we talk about our thoughts on canon? Yeah. So subscribe to the Patreon if you want to hear our thoughts on that overall. But essentially, the canon isn't what makes the story great. Let's be honest.
Adaptions are allowed. Changes to canon are allowed.
Yes.
You know.
And
anyway.
Yeah.
So we're gonna cover Resident Evil 0.
Ooh.
Which I never played. I haven't played 0, 1, 2, Code Veronica, or 3. I jumped in on 4.
4 is when it started getting more to the action thing. So that's when it first started with the European.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't it like an Eastern European town?
No, I want to say Western European.
I think of Eastern European because that's where a lot of vampire stuff comes from. So maybe it's just me.
Well, I think that's a newer one. I could be wrong. I don't know where I don't remember where 4 takes place. I just remember that you're facing a thing called the Los Plagas in that one. So that's why I'm saying probably not Eastern Europe.
That's fair.
But I never played 0. I never played 1. Sacrilege, I know. I do own them now.
Well, I mean, we love a lot of these stories, and sometimes we experience them without playing them ourselves. I'm very guilty of this.
So let's jump into Resident Evil 0.
Okay.
And
where it all began.
Well, it's interesting to put it that way because Resident Evil 0 does explain some backstory, but it also takes place one day before Resident Evil 1.
Right.
So it's not there's not a lot to learn. There's stuff that you learn, but it's not like your massive quantities of lore being dumped upon you that were not known before.
Now, as somebody who watched the first Mila Jovovich movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
those are very loosely based on Resident Evil.
But I feel like the first one was probably the one that was kind of closest to the concept.
I haven't seen it. I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't explain.
But dear listeners, I may be like, oh, so it's like that in the movie.
I don't think there's a laser grid.
No. The laser grid I'm not worried about.
So anyway, on July 23rd, 1998, the Ecliptic Express, a train owned by a pharmaceutical company named Umbrella, is traveling through the Arklay Mountains in America. Fictional location.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the night, it comes under attack from a swarm of leeches that press against the train all over the windows and everything. Like big leeches with teeth and stuff.
Yikes.
As the passengers and crew are attacked, a mysterious young man watches over the resulting chaos from a hillside, singing in the night air.
Yeah, that's creepy.
2 hours later, the Bravo team of the Raccoon City Special Tactics and Rescue Services, STARS, police force is sent to investigate a series of cannibalistic murders in the mountains which are outside of Raccoon City.
Cannibalistic murders outside in the mountains in Raccoon City. It sounds like the beginning of somewhat of a vampire movie, but we're not going in that direction if you know anything about Resident Evil.
Rebecca Chambers is part of the squad. She's a rookie and also a child prodigy. She graduated from college at 18 with a bachelor's in chemistry. Somehow this made her an ideal pick for the team medic.
I can see an argument for that.
I can. It just feels a little bit weird.
Does it feel weird? Yes, but I can definitely see an argument for that.
But this is also a franchise where mixing together two different herbs will heal you. So,
well, it's a video game.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's more to do with why that is. I mean, there's no reason that when I mix food into a pot in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild that it dances and does a little musical ditty before I get like my meat and mushroom skewer.
Safi has been obsessed with Breath of the Wild for a couple days now.
That little cooking ditty is infectious.
The sole reason.
I need that as my ringtone. That's my next ringtone.
On the way to the scene, the helicopter has an engine failure and crash lands in the forest. They find an overturned MP Jeep, so military police Jeep. Mm-hmm. The guards are dead, but a manifest reveals that they were transporting Billy Cohen, a former Marine lieutenant heading to a nearby military base for execution due to his murder of 23 civilians in a village in Africa.
Does it say what part of
Africa?
Africa?
We'll get there. No.
All right. Problematic thing number 1. Africa is a continent that is bigger than North America. Just going to say that and we can move on. Just need to acknowledge that.
Captain Enrico Marini orders the team to split up to locate the escaped convict. It's always a good idea to split the party.
You know, don't we actually, speaking of YouTubers we like, there is a YouTuber that talks about running DM games about like why it's a good idea to split the party.
Yes.
But that's a totally different context than we're in the middle of a horror story.
In fact, he says when you're around a place that you're probably in danger, you probably don't want to split the party. This is Seth Skorkowski, if anyone wants to watch somebody who really goes into tabletop RPGs.
Yes.
While searching the immediate area, Rebecca comes across the Express, now motionless. She begins to investigate the scene, finding everyone dead from the attack.
Right. So, which we have to assume the guy watching from the hill singing a ditty knew that was going to happen. He just wanted to confirm his hypothesis, I guess. And now there she is, and she's like, oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah. As she explores, she discovers everyone has been transformed into zombies, actually. Like, they kind of all wake up when she gets to one point in the... Yeah.
Now, side note, just to make sure our audience knows what we're talking about, in case you do not know this part of Resident Evil, but what kind of zombies are Resident Evil zombies?
They run the gamut from the slow shamblers to the fast, crazy ones, to monsters, to creatures, to...
I've always got the sense...
Yeah, it's not the undead like George Romero. It's It's science experiments gone amok for the most part.
I always think of them as like virus-powered biomachines.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's
kind
fair.
of the sense, because I feel like that's kind of the sense of why they were developed in the first place, depending on what you're sourcing about the virus, so to speak. So
She is unaware their transformation was a result of exposure to Umbrella's T virus, which was contained within the leeches.
Umbrella Corps, man.
As she explores the train for answers, she runs across Cohen.
Oh dear.
She tries to arrest him, but he simply walks away from the rookie. He's like,
Bye. I know what I'm doing.
Edward Dewey, one of Rebecca's team, jumps through a window. He's been mortally wounded by a Cerberus pack. Cerberus are zombified dogs.
Right. Which in the movie, it's just a bunch of these Dobermans that are just ready to.
They tend to be Dobermans in the games, too.
Yeah. They're just ready to tear into you, and just a great scene of Mila Jovovich just like kicking butt against three of them.
Armed with only a rifle and a handgun, he was not able to fend off the fast-moving pack. He warns Rebecca about the dogs in the woods before passing out. As if they read the script, one of the dogs jumps into the train.
As if they read the script. And that's my did he die? That's my cue. And go.
She manages to fend it off, still on her own in this whole ordeal. Rebecca finds one man who's not a zombie, but when she tries to rouse him, he falls apart. Literally, like his head falls off, his body just falls apart, revealing a writhing mass of leeches.
This is kind of like when my character is actually just three goblins in a trench coat kind of deal. My character is actually just 10,000 leeches in a skin suit.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's gross.
they begin to engulf her, basically cover all over her when Billy shows up and rescues her.
Okay. So now we're establishing that they're kind of stuck being a team.
Yeah. The pair soon notices the mysterious singing man and also see the leeches are kind of being drawn to him and into him. Then the train suddenly begins moving again.
This is not the kind of Pied Piper I'd hoped for, by the way.
Unbeknownst to the pair, two soldiers from Umbrella attempt to take control of the train and bring it in for investigation. However, they are killed by leeches before they can complete their mission, leaving the train speeding along out of control.
And this is why, everybody, always spay and neuter your leeches.
As the train speeds out of control, Rebecca and Billy apply the manual brakes, though it still plows through the barricade, crashing into the station underneath a mountain.
So we're trapped under a mountain
Yeah.
with a bunch of carnivorous leeches.
Upon exploring the area, they discover it to be a disused training facility for future executives of Umbrella.
Future executives?
Yeah, so it's like a school and training area and stuff like that.
So a business school?
Kind of, yeah.
Strange.
It's weird. Again, from my understanding, I have not played this one yet.
Okay.
They also discover that the former director of the facility and the corporation's co-founder, Dr. James Marcus, was responsible for discovering the so-called Progenitor Virus in the 1960s and decided to examine its potential as a biological weapon.
So the Progenitor Virus is something that happened in nature?
I believe so, yeah.
I was about to say it happens naturally in nature, which is kind of redundant. But, okay, so it's something that happens in nature.
I believe so.
And essentially, somebody came in and said, I could do something great with this.
And they never do.
I mean, it's just Jurassic Park all over again, guys.
He combined it with leech DNA to develop the T virus that causes rapid mutations in living organisms and thus transforms humans and animals into zombies and monsters. He experimented on many test subjects and, quote, gifted teenagers, some of which are still here wandering the halls decades later.
Gifted teenagers?
Well, they're dead now.
Gifted with what, though? Like, is it they're super smart, and therefore once they're part leech zombie, they're going to be able to what?
We'll get to...
Decipher the life, the universe, the meaning of everything?
Well, it's 42. But we'll get to Umbrella's main goals when we talk about the actual, like, the other co-founder.
Is it capitalism?
No.
Well, that's even scarier to me now.
Rebecca and Billy do not know it, but they are being watched by Albert Wesker and William Birkin, two Umbrella employees who are monitoring the facility via cameras.
Okay.
As the pair continue to explore the facility, Wesker decides to leave Umbrella and join its rival company, and makes plans for further research on the T virus.
What is Umbrella Corps' rival company?
I should have looked that up, and I didn't. I don't know. William Birkin refuses his offer to join him, instead opting to complete his research on the G virus. Basically, they're all doing different viruses. I don't know why, if you were a scientist, you'd want to work on viruses. That, whatever.
I could see there being a noble work in viruses. It just sounds like this ain't it, Chief.
We eventually find out that Umbrella stole Dr. Marcus's research. Wesker and Birkin both theorize that the strange man, the one singing over the whole thing and drawing leeches into him, is Dr. Marcus, back from the dead somehow to seek revenge.
Okay, so the leeches in a trench coat are back to seek revenge? I feel you threw a lot of nouns at me, so I'm trying to keep up. So if I get lost, I'm sorry, but right now in my image, it's just leeches with a mask and a trench coat. Mm-hmm. Trying to
exact revenge on Umbrella for stealing his research, and yeah.
Yes. Okay.
They decide to blow up the facility, destroying all evidence and killing the, quote, leech man as well.
So the facility that's in the mountain.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's around this time we find out what actually happened to Billy Cohen.
Oh, okay.
It's mid-1997. While opposed by the UN, the U.S. was intervening in a civil war in Africa. Literally, my next parentheses are, at least make up a country.
I mean, it's such a big continent. You could just, you could make up... I mean, they do that.
They do later.
They do that with Eastern Europe all the time. You can do that with parts of Africa.
Just Cause is all made up, except for
Right.
America is an entity.
Yeah. I mean, it's fiction, guys. It just... Flames out the side of my face. I can go on about this. I've gone on about this before. Anyway, so...
Oh, you're going to get more annoyed in a second here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a product of its time. It doesn't excuse it. It just explains it.
His squad was sent out to confront guerrillas head-on at their base deep within a jungle. Fair. So far, so good.
Guerrilla warfare. Okay.
Dropped some distance away, the march to the base was long and arduous. A fever spread amongst the men, and they were harassed by guerrillas. By the time they reached their destination, only 4 of them are left.
Yikes. So lots of trauma, lots
Right.
of... And it sounds like they're losing them not only because there are people fighting with them, but they're losing them because they probably had... yellow fever and stuff like
something.
I don't know if it's yellow fever. I forget where that comes from.
When their target quickly turned out to be a village, not a guerrilla compound.
Oh.
Literally complete with grass-roofed huts, because that's the only pop culture image we have of Africa, apparently.
Oh, gosh. That's very much not okay, guys.
Yeah.
Not okay.
The squad leader ordered they massacre the villagers anyway so as not to come back empty-handed. Parentheses, what the F?
Wait, empty hand? If you're killing everybody, you're bringing all their dead bodies back? Empty-handed?
I don't know.
This is some Vietnam level, just dumb, awful, inhumane, horrible stuff.
And Cohen
awful
disobeyed
stuff.
orders.
Okay, so and then he was scapegoated.
Exactly. He was knocked out with a rifle butt, with the other 3 brought all the villagers into a circle, shot them all, and then he was set up as the fall guy and covered up.
So Cohen basically was like, guys, these are human beings. Let's not just murder them without cause. And to everybody else said, we did not watch our friends die from diarrhea for no reason.
Pretty much.
That's so
Now,
ridiculous. Okay.
We do know there is a game that takes place in Africa.
Yes.
In a fictional country.
Yes.
It occurred to me after I did my research about 10 minutes ago, when I was just glancing at my notes, that if that event takes place in that same environment, then Umbrella could have some reason for having that whole thing be there. Who knows?
Yeah.
They could have secretly been kill everybody, blah, 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 Who knows?
It could have been.
So,
now,
I don't know. If somebody knows, let me know.
It would not be outside of human history to have somebody's either corporate or scientific interest be thrusted upon experimenting subjugated people or people who didn't know. I mean, we live in a country that has Tuskegee and stuff like
Right.
that. So I get what you're saying,
But
that is possible.
there is this weird undercurrent that there is people who are interested in resources in Africa.
Such a big
Talk
continent.
about.
Come on.
Well, so there's this guy in the lore who wrote a book. I forget what his name was, but he wrote a book about his travels in Africa. This corporation spread a bunch of stuff about how it was all made up because they didn't want anyone doing any research into it because there were mineral rights or resources or something that they wanted to exploit as a corporation. So they basically buried this guy in hearsay and everything and how he's a fraud and everything.
Okay.
So there's definitely like these elements that are trying to, playing colonial.
Yeah, colonial
so.
wars essentially against each other. It makes sense. I don't like it, but it makes sense.
I don't like it either. So anyway, later Rebecca becomes separated from Billy when he is tossed by a monster into a river. This is this underground river.
What kind of monster?
It's like primate zombie thing.
I was gonna say, is it leeches in a suit of
No,
armor
it's big.
now?
It's a big thing. On her own, she finds her way to a chemical plant in the facility, which has been attacked by leeches. There, she encounters Captain Enrico Marini again. He's looking for the rest of the team still and heads off to find them, telling her that the rest of Bravo team will meet up at an old mansion they found. He allows her to stay behind to find Billy. Just after Enrico leaves, Rebecca's attacked by the Tyrant, a giant abomination.
Okay, and I think there's reference of that in the Resident Evil movies. Like they use
I wouldn't
him
be
to
surprised.
like
It's
a bad guy that started in the first one and came to the second one, if I remember correctly.
After temporarily defeating the Tyrant, Rebecca finds Billy again, a bit more waterlogged now, and together they defeat the Tyrant for good and continue on towards the water plant. Eventually, Rebecca and Billy catch up with the leech-controlling man, who happens to be Marcus's final experiment, Queen Leech.
Oh my.
10 years earlier, Marcus was assassinated on the order of Umbrella's other co-founder, Oswell E. Spencer, who sought his research. And after his corpse was dumped, Queen Leech entered his body and reanimated it, gaining his memories and the ability to shapeshift, thus believing itself to be the resurrected Marcus, and orchestrated the T-virus outbreak in the facility and on the train as a means of revenge against Umbrella.
So this is literally the revenge of a leech in a trench coat. Like, my whole joke is actually fact. I thought this was going to be a bit, and instead it's actually the plot. I have stumbled upon the plot. That is like literally like session 2 of a D&D campaign that's supposed to go for a year, and you do a critical fumble so bad that you trip over the big bad evil guy that you're supposed to defeat.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're all killed and resurrected 10 years later or something like that.
After temporarily defeating Queen Leech, Billy and Rebecca attempt to escape to the surface via a lift, just as William Birkin finally trips the facility's self-destruct mechanism. Pursued by Queen Leech up the elevator, the pair eventually kill it. It's sensitive to light. They open the roof of the warehouse they're fighting in and let the sun in. Like, this is... yeah.
Let the sunshine.
And they escape the facility as it's destroyed.
The sunshine in.
Following their escape, Rebecca notices the mansion that Marini mentioned and prepares to head for it. Before she does, she grabs Billy's dog tags from him and assures him that her police report will list him as another casualty of the incident.
Nice.
Thanking her for his freedom, Billy departs as Rebecca heads towards the mansion to seek the whereabouts of her fellow Bravo team members.
Right. Which, and that is supposed to be the beginning of one. So,
Which is what we're going to do right now.
Okay. We're just rolling into it. So
these games are not, at this point, I should say, these games are more storyline to connect set pieces.
Okay.
At least I feel that way.
Okay.
You know, if we want to get into deep lore, there is deep lore.
Yes.
I'm not going to do that for a first episode about a series. I know you did that with King Merrick, but I'm not going to do that.
But King Merrick also helps establish like a backbone to no part of the Dragon Age.
That's
lore.
true.
And that was my hope with that. And you don't have to do that every time you talk about the lore of a story.
Right. On July 24th, 1998, so next day, a series of bizarre murders occur on the outside of the Midwestern town of Raccoon City. We already know this already.
Okay, so, side note, why would you name your town Raccoon City? That just feels...
I don't know.
Odd. Why would you name your town after trash cats?
Oh, that's mean to raccoons.
But that's... Okay, I say that with affection. They are trash cats. They are essentially wild cats that love to eat our trash. They're still cute and fuzzy.
The Raccoon City Police Department Special Tactics and Rescue Service, STARS,
Okay.
are assigned to investigate. I'm just doing that because I didn't know if we were going to get to this, so I wrote each one individually.
STARS. Oh my gosh.
After contact with Bravo Team is lost, Alpha Team is sent to investigate their disappearance. Alpha Team locates Bravo Team's crashed helicopter and land at the site and begin to investigate. Joseph Frost, one of the team, is drawn off by a pack of Cerberus.
More Doberman with a bad day.
He moves away from the team to investigate and is mauled by the pack. His screams alert the rest of the team, and they fall back to the helicopter, but their pilot, Brad Vickers, panics and takes off alone.
Oh my gosh.
The remaining members, Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Albert Wesker, and Barry Burton, run to seek refuge in an abandoned mansion. Getting there, Jill, Barry, and Wesker see that one of the team is missing. Okay, so at the time, this was a big deal that there's two storylines through Resident Evil. You either play as Chris or you play as Jill.
Right.
We're going to bounce back between both of them because the storylines are generally the same, but you will meet different characters to have the same beat. Like, Jill will find one person who's being eaten by a zombie. Chris finds someone else who's being eaten by a zombie. That's their first encounter with the zombie.
Right, exactly.
So the general plot stays the same, but, the gameplay changes your storyline slightly here and there. Mm-hmm. We'll cover the important parts. The player character moves to head back out because no matter who you're with.
Yeah.
Yeah. But is stopped by Wesker. He orders them and Barry to investigate the mansion. During Chris's storyline, Barry goes missing after the opening cutscene, with Wesker presuming him to be dead. It's never proven. He is in Jill's storyline as a support character who comes and goes throughout the story.
So Barry Burton, when Chris Redfield is going through everything, he just thinks Barry is deceased.
Yeah.
But Jill knows that Barry is around and actually is giving her some sort of aid. Is it radio directions or?
No, he's actually, you kind of meet up with him at points.
Oh.
And Chris also has somebody that he meets up with at points. Basically, it's like, oh, your paths intersect. Go do this. I'll go do this. Paths intersect again later.
Okay.
Stuff like that. Throughout the story, the player character, either Chris or Jill, explores the mansion and finds several members of Bravo Team, including Kenneth J. Sullivan being eaten by a zombie,
Yikes.
Forrest Speyer, who is found dead and revived as a zombie. Bravo Team survivor Rebecca Chambers is found tending to Richard Aiken, another survivor of his snake bite.
Snake bite?
Yeah. Chris has time to save Richard from his snake bite if he gets the cure fast enough, though in the end Richard will die anyway in a different scene. Rebecca will join Chris as his support character in the same way Barry is Jill's support character. She will come and go from the story as they progress.
Okay.
Bravo team leader Enrico Marini will be found wounded. He reveals that one of Alpha Team's members is a traitor before being killed by an unseen shooter.
Like, you're talking to him and then he suddenly gets sniped?
Yeah.
Great.
We're also so there's a lot of uncovering stuff that we've already covered.
Right.
Because we've already talked about Resident Evil 0.
Right. The origin of where Rebecca Chambers is coming from.
Right. The T-virus, the idea of the zombies, the Umbrella Corporation, all this stuff we already covered.
Right.
There's a lot of story in Resident Evil that is easy to gloss over, which is what we're going to do here because we're covering 2 games in one episode. I may do a deeper dive on individual aspects of this story.
When we're out of this pandemic, it might be more appropriate to talk about a T-virus, but right now I don't think that's appropriate. So,
and also it's really hard with this particular game because you're doing 2 storylines where you uncover a lot of the same information.
Right.
The player character learns that a series of illegal experiments were undertaken by a clandestine research team under the authority of biomedical company Umbrella Corporation. Now, Umbrella gets its hands into a lot of stuff.
Hence why they're an umbrella corporation.
Well, it used to be Umbrella Pharmaceuticals, then they became Umbrella Corporation.
Okay.
So
they now make wheelchairs too? I'm confused.
They do. They make like
how are my jokes not jokes?
They make like machines, they make wartime stuff, they make all sorts of stuff.
Oh my gosh. Like I swear, okay. Leech in a trench coat, actually the plot. Umbrella Corp makes wheelchairs, actually true.
I don't know if they actually make wheelchairs, but it would not surprise me if like one of their beneficial companies was a prosthetics manufacturer or something. You know?
Yeah, I gotta stop making jokes because they're actually not jokes. They're just facts now.
The mansion itself is marketed as a company retreat for Umbrella employees and is owned by its co-founder, Oswell E. Spencer.
Uh-huh.
Of course, it also hides an evil biotechnical lab because it's an evil corporation after all.
Dun, dun, dun. You got just that music's playing in the background all the time in Umbrella Corp's headquarters.
The creatures roaming the mansion and its surrounding areas are the results of these experiments, which have exposed the mansion's personnel and animals to highly contagious and mutagenic biological agents known as the T-virus.
Do we have any Star Trek players from high school roaming these halls as well?
Umbrella has its hands in many different industries, as I said, but it's mostly a smokescreen to keep eyes off of its biomutagenic research.
Okay.
This is all because Spencer, that one co-founder, has delusions of godhood and is also a very strong believer in eugenics.
Have we ever talked about eugenics before in any capacity as a podcast series?
I don't believe so.
Let's just do a very quick overview for those who might not know the origins of eugenics, everybody. It was discovered that there was such a thing as DNA. There was a side interest of individuals who thought that there would be a way to use this information to perfect humanity intentionally. And thus eugenics was born. It was actually kind of started as somewhat of a scientific thought experiment.
If you say just that phrase, that is not a unlaudable goal.
Right. No, what happened was, and this happens a lot in science, people's preconceived notions of what perfection or what the end goal is got in the way, and thus eugenics has now been, and I don't think it's unavoidably tarnished. I don't think there's any way to get around that. Because
there's a podcast we listened to called Citation Needed that did an episode on eugenics, and they were just like, they're a comedy podcast, and that was a really weird episode to listen to.
Yeah, because it's not fun. It's just not funny. It's not funny when people take science and twist it into something awful. It's been used to essentially legalize crimes against
humanity.
Yeah. And I just want to mention it briefly to highlight the evil that this character is.
Right. He's not the only one in the series. Right.
He's not going to be the only eugenicist in the series, but I feel like, we're a family-friendly podcast, and we want to make sure that any age group can understand the totality of what we're talking about within reason, right? So, for those of you who might have heard of eugenics and you kind of know it's a bad thing and you don't know why, that's kind of like the briefest overview we can give you. So now we can move forward with this eugenicist is automatically a bad dude because he's linked to eugenics, period. There's no getting around it.
So like we said, evil corporation is evil.
Exactly.
The player character eventually discovers a secret underground laboratory containing Umbrella's experiments. Jill will eventually find who the traitor is, Wesker. He is an Umbrella scientist, also a eugenicist.
Oh. So the eugenicists gonna hang out together and do
much
evil plots together. So, but the question is how, if you're trying to perfect humans, how does that lead to zombies? I don't mean to make such weird sounds into the microphone.
I think it's more, let's purge humanity because my people are superior, will be fine type thing.
Oh, that's so gross.
Yeah. That's my impression. I haven't done a deep dive into Wesker, who I could do a whole episode on Wesker, I'm sure.
We should in the future. Let's give it some distance, but we should.
As she runs off to find him, she is stopped and held at gunpoint by Barry. Barry brings her to Wesker, holding a gun to her head.
Great. Do we find a traitor then? Like,
Wesker's the traitor.
uh-huh.
He literally tells Jill, don't take this out on Barry. He's not doing this on his own. His family is being held hostage.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's just going to call it out like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so evil that I had to convince your friend here to be just as evil as me.
Yeah. And so Barry throughout the game, like, he helps you, but he also hinders you. Like, he tries to get you trapped in things and stuff because he's trying to save his family.
Right.
So as Wesker works to activate the Tyrant, because he has a Tyrant that he's working on, basically the whole project is to build this Tyrant, which is there to kill the STARS team members or something. Is
it an experiment to see how well the Tyrant performs?
I think so. I don't know what the purpose of the Tyrant itself is off the top of my head. And the wikis are both really good and really terrible.
Well, are they trying to keep it vague because...
So, like, the problem I have with the wiki is you go to the game.
Yeah.
And it would tell you, here's the cast of characters, but no plot line. You know, you go to the 2002 release of the GameCube one, here's the cast of characters and changes to the game, but no plot line or like a paragraph of plot line.
Well, and even if you played the games, you're going to forget half of what everything was.
And going through and trying to piece together the whole storyline from the characters, like you click on the character, it'll say the mansion incident. You go to the mansion incident, there's a whole paragraph. Well, okay, that doesn't explain the whole game. That just explains what happens to that character.
Okay, so all right, so we don't have an overarching plot line.
I watched a lot of Resident Evil blah 0 or 1 in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, in 20 minutes. You know, people breaking it down without all the gameplay stuff.
Okay,
because a long play of Resident Evil is not something I was ready for.
Okay, all right.
So Wesker activates the Tyrant, and Barry at this point finally works up the courage to take on Wesker. He shoots him.
Oh, okay.
Though Wesker isn't dead and activates the Tyrant, who then like steps out and is like looking at Barry, and then he just kills Wesker.
Oh, wow. Kind of like, well, let's be honest. We all know who's really the reason why we're here today.
I mean, if you've played any of the other Resident Evil games, like I think Wesker is all the way until like 3 or I think he's actually still in the games. No, actually no. I think he's dead in 6. Like, he finally dies in 6. Like, he dies so many times. Always comes back.
I mean, it's just that stubborn, nagging feeling of superiority that apparently keeps him running.
As Jill and Barry escape the Tyrant, they run into Chris and Rebecca. Now, this is the thing that got confusing when I was watching all these different videos. I think they may have changed some storyline because...
Okay.
Certain breakdowns I saw, specifically on, like, on wikis and stuff, said that Barry doesn't appear in Chris's story at all after the opening cutscene, and Rebecca never appears in Jill's story.
Oh.
But here they do.
Okay.
So, I don't know. It could be that they changed something. It could be that someone's breakdown is wrong. It could be there's DLC. I don't know.
Feel free to clarify that at Lore Together on Twitter or email us loretogether@gmail.com because we're happy to be corrected and specified on anything when it comes to this stuff. It's a lot of lore for video games is so convoluted and sometimes lost if you're just trying to do an initial dive.
They decide to activate the self-destruct sequence for the facility, which makes sense. Yeah,
of course. There's always a self-destruct. I feel like with the Resident Evil anything, there's always some sort of self-destruct thing that's happening.
As they're doing this, or planning on doing this, they get a radio signal from Brad Vickers, who left but has been circling and is going to run out of fuel soon. So
he got spooked and he left with the helicopter and decided he's just going to waste fuel.
Well, he wants to know what happened to everyone else. Like, he left because he got spooked, but he's not going to abandon them unless, Okay. That's my take on it anyway. Okay. Rebecca splits off to activate the self-destruct countdown, and the other three are stopped by the Tyrant erupting through the helipad. It's like...
Yeah, they usually, a lot of Resident Evil has a lot of, big foreboding people, period.
Brad freaks out even though he's flying.
I mean, helicopters are fragile creatures, let's be honest.
But he's still flying at this point.
Yeah.
But he's seeing everyone else fighting the thing. He drops a rocket launcher, basically tips the helicopter to drop this rocket launcher, which they use to take out the Tyrant. in a really weird scene. Like the cutscene was just like the tyrant's like just standing there as the rocket comes towards it. Felt weird. The lab self-destruct.
It's like it's just ready to take it on. It's like mad gains, bro. I've had mad gains missiles. Get ready for me. I just have this image of the tyrant like getting ready to punch him.
They take out the tyrant. The lab self-destruct goes off as the four are flown out of there.
Cinematic beauty.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the general rundown of Resident Evil 1 because of the dual nature of the storyline.
Right, yeah. You're either following Jill or you're following Chris.
Yeah. And that's the first two games in the chronology at this point. Of the main chronology, I should say. I don't know where the other spin-off games land in this.
Right. Exactly. So...
And like I said, there's also... I think there was a stage play, possibly. Like, I swear I saw a picture of some actors on a stage.
Well, it could have been. Sometimes local theater will take stuff and do something with it. I actually heard of once some
I think it was official. I don't think it was just some
some theater company did Star Trek in the Park one season, and they did an original series episode of Star Trek.
Oh, geez.
In the park. What? I don't understand that personally. I'm more for actual theater, but that's just me.
Yeah, we went to a Klingon Christmas Carol.
Guys, it was so good. It was so fun. You know, and it like I think we were like it was you, me, and my mama. We were the only three people who didn't know anybody in the cast. We were just like, this was fun. This is so great.
But yeah, so that's the first two chapters of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
And which one do you want to play? Because we have both of them.
Oh my gosh. Don't
remember if there's a remake of Resident Evil 1 beyond the HD version of the GameCube one.
Okay.
I do know that they just re-released a brand new version of Resident Evil 2 not too long ago.
Yes. Yeah, I do remember.
But I don't know if they've done anything with 0 or 1 after the GameCube version upscaled ones, you know.
Right. I think I would like to do Resident Evil 1 and do Jill Valentine. There's something about the mansion that's iconic.
Okay.
And the way that you deal with it, and it'll be very spooky to watch because of it. But yeah, no, let's do Resident Evil 1. Let's do Jill Valentine, because I love a brunette female protagonist, and
we'll watch you do that.
We'll do it.
So I guess for now, thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you so much. We will catch you at the next live stream on Thursdays.
Yep.
And the next episode. Bye.
I have no idea what the next episode's going to be.
That'll
be November.
You've got time. You've got time.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.